Hello everybody and welcome to the Moneyshift YouTube channel. I am Thanasi. Happy Friday to everybody. For those of you that celebrate Thanksgiving, hope it was awesome and hope you are enjoying leftovers as you are watching this video. Now, what we are going to be getting to today is to talk about the 2023 Ford Ranger. Now, Ford just dropped this brand new pickup truck to introduce it to its lineup. It is the last domino to fall for Ford's pickup truck lineup, getting completely refreshed. We saw the brand new F-150. We've obviously seen the new Maverick. The Super Duty has received a minor overhaul, and now the Ford Ranger is getting its due. But before we get to that point, let's talk about where we came from, and that is this guy right here. Now, I know there were Rangers before this one, but this is the current generation of Ford Ranger that is available on our shores today. This vehicle was introduced into the United States in 2019, but the car actually debuted in 2011. So while we got a new powertrain, the 2.3-liter turbocharged four-cylinder from the Ford Focus RS and the Mustang EcoBoost, made it to a 10-speed automatic, which was great. It provided a class-leading 310 pound-feet of torque with 270 horsepower. This thing could tow 7,500 pounds easily with 1,500 pound payload. We were still getting an 8-year-old truck, and that was very evident in the interior of the Ford Ranger. While it leveraged Sync 3, which is something that the Ford Maverick uses, Bronco Sport uses, and some other current Fords, it just looked antique right from the jump. And in comparison to a lot of the other trucks in the space, the Tacoma, the Colorado, and the Canyon, it just could not compete. And while Ford did do a reasonable job in selling these, which warrants a new model to bring here into the States, it definitely didn't live up to the market share hype that Ford was hoping they would get for the Ranger out of the Tacoma's overall market share in the space. So let's fast forward a little bit. From the Ranger, we get the Maverick. So now Ford completely rounds out its pickup truck lineup. So if we look at this photo right here, the biggest shadow is an F-250 Super Duty. The second one is an F-150, and then you get the Ranger and the Maverick. So very similar, but the Ranger overall is a little bit longer and a little bit taller than the Maverick. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So this is the 2023 Ford Ranger, and I gotta be honest with you guys, I think the styling is pretty solid. It looks very much like an elevated, more trucky Maverick. Like if you took a Maverick and gave it a little bit of, I don't know, Carhartt or something like that, just make it a little more trucky, a little more construction-y, a little more whatever, a little more rugged. That's what you'll get with the 2023 Ford Ranger. Now, this vehicle specifically was designed and engineered in Australia, which leads me to my PSA. All of the details, all of the photos, everything that you guys are looking at is the global spec to the Ford Ranger. This is not the US spec unit. That truck will be unveiled at a very recent later date. So all of these photos are of the global one. I don't expect like major styling elements to change, but it's just something to note when you see the interior and the fact that it's a right-hand drive, or when you see the interior and the fact that there's a standard transmission. That doesn't mean we're going to be getting a right-hand drive or a standard transmission here in the States. It just means that we're looking at the global model. So again, this vehicle was designed and engineered in Australia, and the 2023 Ranger represents a drastic departure from the old truck, but maintaining the characteristics that made the old Ranger special. The 2021 Ranger had immense capability. It was fast. It did 0 to 60 in the low 60s. It could tow a lot. It had decent fuel economy, and it retains all of those things, but it builds on all of those to make it a truck that you would actually really potentially want, right? And this plus-size looking Maverick definitely is more proper looking truck than the Ford Ranger was. Like the Ford Ranger it replaces, the 2023 model will be available in two body styles. You will be able to get an extended cab long bed or a 4-door short bed combination. Now, Ford is one of the few companies that is sticking to this model, which is really, really nice. And I love the availability of you still being able to get a long bed with an access cab if that's something that you're interested in. Or like the majority of Americans, you can just opt for the crew cab with a 5-foot bed and have a total safe bed there too. Now, the 2023 Ranger is riding on a modified but carryover platform. Now, that is something that a lot of people are doing in the space lately. Nissan with the Frontier is riding on the entirely same platform that has just been heavily altered, and this is the same thing. This is a carryover platform that is now 2 inches wider and longer, which hopefully brings in better balance. So catering to both the folks that want it as a work truck and catering to the people that want it as a lifestyle machine. Ford also says that this allows for better approach angle and articulation and cooling, and that all makes sense, right? Like, with changes come added benefits. You're not just entirely focusing on one thing to improve. Now, let's talk about what is under the hood, because this was probably the biggest thing that was left in the air with the new Ford Ranger. We knew a lot of the details about the thing, but we had heard many different engine options. So it's going to be clear that in the States, we are going to be getting the Ford Ranger with the 2.3 liter turbocharged inline-4 engine that is likely going to be carried over almost exactly from the current Ranger, and that's fine. That 2.3 liter turbocharged 4, again, 270 horse, 310 pound-feet of torque, those numbers are solid. Now, Ford also debuted the 23 Ranger with a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo diesel and a 3-liter turbo diesel V6, which is wild. That's the F-150 Power Stroke engine, for those of you that know. And those engines likely are going to be making it here in the States. As much as I would want a 3-liter turbo diesel V6 Ranger, that's probably not going to happen here in the States, so that's the last time we're going to mention those two diesel engines. Ford says the transmission options will include an updated 10-speed automatic, and then for the rest of the world, a 6-speed manual. So again, nothing crazy here. That 10-speed auto is in literally everything Ford makes pretty much these days, except the Maverick and the Bronco Sport, stuff like that. But pretty much everything Ford makes these days, and it's a solid transmission. So no complaints there. So the biggest thing, though, is where's the electric? One of the biggest rumors we heard with the Ford Ranger was that a plug-in hybrid was coming, or just a regular series hybrid, something like a Prius was coming. We also heard that there was the potential for there to be a full battery electric version that was coming. And yet when Ford came out with the Ranger, when they debuted it a few days ago, there was nothing except this. And I'm going to mispronounce her name, and I do apologize, but I'm going to do my best here. Ford spokesman Sue Negosian, we tried it, okay, said, quote, "There will be an electrified Ranger in the future," end quote. Lisa Drake, chief operating officer for North America, said, quote, "In the battery electric vehicle era, Ford will not cede truck leadership to anyone," end quote. So while they didn't say that there is a Ford Ranger electric coming, or a Ford Ranger plug-in hybrid coming, or a regular hybrid, you can expect that later down the line, now how much later, we don't know, but later down the line, Ford will be unveiling something. Now, my hope, okay, obviously we would all want a battery electric version of the Ford Ranger. I think that would be incredible, sort of like a mini Lightning, right? Maybe you just call it Thunder or something like that. But if I'm going to be honest with you guys, what I think it should be is a plug-in hybrid variant with around a 30 to 40 mile range, because then what you're offering, okay, is a full suite of pickup trucks. You have the hybrid in the Maverick that gets nearly 50 mpg if you know how to drive it, right? You have the full electric version coming in the Ford Lightning, okay, which gives you over 300 miles of range, massive frunk, massive trunk. You can power your house. We all know the details. We've heard them all. But then the Ranger can slot in with a plug-in hybrid variant as sort of a bridge from the Maverick to the Lightning. The reason why a lot of companies have this sort of step-up strategy is so that you buy the Maverick and then, things are going great. You got a lot of brand loyalty. You're like, I'm going to step it up. But maybe you don't want to go full electric just yet. Maybe you want to test the waters with a plug-in hybrid. Bang! The Ford Ranger comes in with the plug-in hybrid. And then after that, you get used to electric and bang! You upgrade to the Lightning. So it makes sense in my mind that Ford would go from a gas Ranger, the 2.3 liter turbo, and then also offer at one point a plug-in hybrid. Now, let's remember that Ford is going to be improving on the capabilities of the existing Ranger. Ford did say that the Ranger's 1900 max payload and 7500 max towing capabilities are going to be improved for this model, which is pretty wild, considering that those numbers were already pretty close, if not better than some spec 1500 caliber trucks. So excited to see where we land on that. Now, the biggest news that we haven't even touched on yet is the interior. This is the biggest improvement to the Ranger overall, because we've already talked about everything else, right? The styling of the Ranger, for the most part, was one of the better looking trucks in the segment on the outside. The capabilities were also world-class. 2.3 liter inline 4 with that 10-speed automatic created for gobs of torque, over 300 torque, which allowed passing power, which allowed highway cruising, all this stuff, right? But where the Ranger fell on its face was the interior, and that is where the new Ranger makes its biggest changes. One of the biggest areas of improvement for the Ranger is in the inside. The new, more modern interior is really focused in on that dash. You're going to be available to get 2 screens in the Ranger. The number one Mac Daddy is that 12-inch screen that you see in some of these photos, but the other one that is available is a 10.1-inch screen. Now, we see that screen in things like the Bronco and the F-150, so both of these screens are very solid. Now, Ford says that both of them will also come with Ford Sync 4, which is great. And you'll also be able to get a bunch of different options with that, a bunch of different configurability and all that stuff that Sync 4 provides that Sync 3 just does not or cannot. So we're going to round it out with the price, and then we're going to speculate on a new model that Ford is going to be unveiling in February. So the price, current base price for the Ford Ranger is $27,500. That is for an extended cab, long bed, 2-wheel drive truck, and if you want a crew cab short bed, you're looking at around $30,000. So where can we expect this thing to land? I would not be surprised if the Ford Ranger has a base price of around $28,500 to $29,000 in access cab form, and then in super crew form here in the States to land at a touch over $31,000. Now, those are all really, really great numbers, and I think they are far enough away from something like the Maverick so that it's a very different audience, and then far enough away from something like the F-150 where that is also a very different audience. Now, when can we expect to potentially purchase one of these things? Now, Ford has announced that they are a 2023 model, which means that they will start production in 2022 and likely reach our shores sometime in July or August. So if you guys were hoping that these were going to be sort of like the Toyota Tundra on dealer lots by the time you see this video, that's not the case, but they are coming sooner rather than later. So if you're a Ford Maverick hybrid owner that is waiting almost 8 months or less for their truck, you do kind of sort of have the option if you want to upgrade to the new Ford Ranger based on what you're seeing today. But where we are going to end is a Ford Ranger model that Ford has announced they will be debuting in February, and that is none other than the Ford Ranger Raptor. Now, the image that you are seeing over here is a render of what it could potentially look like, but Ford also teased the fact that in February of 2022, they will be showcasing a Raptor version of the Ford Ranger. And while we didn't get the last generation Ford Ranger Raptor, you bet your bottom end yikes, that we're likely going to be getting the Ford Ranger Raptor here in the States, and the rumors are juicy. Powering the engine could be one of two motors. Number one, 2.7 liter twin turbocharged V6 from the Bronco, and in the Bronco, it makes 330 horsepower, 415 pound-feet of torque, and let me tell you, it moves. We reviewed a Bronco with that engine. Check that out. And it was awesome. Really, really do love that power plant. But the second one is a little bit spicier, if I do say so myself. And it is the engine option from the Explorer ST. That 3-liter turbocharged, twin turbocharged, two of them, not one, but two, V6 makes 400 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque. So this obviously will have more upgrades to the suspension, more upgrades to the body. It'll likely be wider and all of that things. But we have a Ranger Raptor to look forward to next year. So overall, in summary, what do I think about the 2023 Ford Ranger, especially as it pertains to something like the Maverick? I think Ford knocked it out of the park with the model in a few different respects. Number one, I love the styling. I think this sort of elevated, beefier Ford Maverick look is a great look, especially for a truck of this size. Number two, I like that they didn't change a lot about the driveline. The 2.3 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder mated to that 10-speed automatic is a solid unit. That is a great combination, and it is something that didn't really need to be altered much on the new model, and it doesn't seem like they're going to be changing it at all, which is great. Number three, they address the biggest point, the interior. The interior on the Ranger now looks modern. The interior of the Ranger now looks premium. You're able to get large screens. You're able to get digital instrument clusters, all of that. None of that was available on the current Ranger, and if it was, it looked like technology from the 90s. So Ford addressed the three main problems, and they gave us a preview to not only the Ranger Raptor that we just talked about, but the fact that there's going to be an electrified version of the Ranger to come. So overall, my thoughts on the Ford Ranger is Ford did a really great job, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think. What do you think about the new Ford Ranger? If you have a Maverick on order, does seeing this now make you reconsider? Let me know. All right, that is where we're going to draw it today. We will see you next time. Goodbye.